Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Commission Breath. Brandon Love here with Tom Moffat, and we're starting a little bit on the rocks today. I just smashed a TV over my head, tried to steal some of my daughter's Halloween candy, came up, caught the TV, broke it over my head. It's shattered upstairs, and I was just saying to Tom, I was lying on the floor there, being like, "I got to get on the episode," and he's like, "I'm out of breath because I was in the gym and just ran in for this." So we're in
I was
fine
like,
form today.
dude, you got to talk for the first 2 minutes. I'm still out of breath from the stairs. What size TV?
I have no idea. I was actually just trying to look on Best Buy to get it replaced
That sucks. That sucks.
before I get caught stealing the candy and everyone comes home with no TV.
55-inch or it didn't count?
I'll tell you when I have to buy one tonight. So I'm having a week of really expensive items. So it's always good for the head because it pushes our back against the wall in the mortgage business, makes us sell a little harder, work harder. I find it does for me. So I always come out on top, but it's painful in the moment.
It's always the first thing that goes through my head too. It's like, okay, what can I do to get another mortgage this month?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think it was Wiley that said one time, he's like, if you want a pool, like just figure out how to get that in deals. If you want this, figure out how to do that in files. That always like stuck with me. But now I'm like, I don't really want a ton of different things. But I'm like, anytime I get like a big car bill or something stupid like that, I'm like, ooh, it's just like go find another mortgage. It'll pay for it.
Yeah, those expenses always suck. Anyways, why don't we dive into it, buddy? We are going to be talking about 6 things we're focusing on in 2025. So, we came into this blind together. We thought it'd be more fun if we didn't know each other's three. So, I have no idea if you have anything from like a personal goal or personal habit that you want to install, or if it's all business. Vice versa, you have no idea what I have written down. So, why don't
Yeah.
we dive into point number one? Why don't you give us your first one?
Yeah. So my first one is to be ruthless with my time. I'm already pretty cutthroat on this of like,
I'm laughing because that's my first one
is that
too.
one of yours? Like I track everything on Toggle. I don't take a bunch of stupid meetings. I'll like pre-vet appointments to make sure it's not a waste of time, that kind of thing. So I'm already like pretty ruthless, but I found I've had some like creep with the brokerage role coming in where like sometimes I'll take a call because I think it's someone who wants to come to the brokerage and then it's just like talking about some random shit, or I'll take a call from my mom in the middle of the workday. And I never used to do that. And I was so much more focused. So I'm going to get back to just being like, okay, my workday is my workday. I'm dialed in. And then my family time, I'm going to try to be more present of mind there of like tucking the phone in a drawer, or like I might get a bat phone with just like you have the number, a few buddies, your realtor
Ooh.
partners who are like my clutch people. That one would come to like the cottage, for example, but my main phone would stay back. So a couple
I
things
like
I'm
that.
mulling over there, but like gonna get more ruthless with time.
First of all, we should probably rename this episode to 5 points because mine's the same one more or less. And speaking of Toggle, I actually was looking into maybe starting that. We had a conversation last week about it. And I too, I want to be more ruthless, not so much ruthless with my time, but more so prioritizing what needs to get done in the day instead of this like dead space in between meetings. And I found myself tracking this week. My goal was to just get everything done for the day in the morning stint. And just by putting my phone away, putting my music on, and just putting out all of the distractions in my life, I got all my mortgage book of business to-do list done in 2 hours that day. And I was like, holy shit, like I just banged everything off that I would normally stretch until like maybe lunchtime. So it's
Mhm.
amazing what you can actually get done in an hour if you just tune out all distractions. And maybe there's some tricks out there. Maybe you delete your social apps and that sort of stuff. But that's kind of my focus too.
Yeah, there's a name for the principle. I'm drawing a blank on what it is, but it's like whatever amount of time you give yourself is what it will take. So I find sometimes like I pick up my daughter from school every day, and some days that's 3, and then some days I have after school and it's closer to 5. But like when I get to like that last hour, I sometimes bang out so much more than I did the whole day because I have that limited time horizon. And so if you're forcing yourself to work in these kind of like time blocks and constraints, you can get a lot more done by imposing those barriers and restrictions on yourself.
Yeah, and I remember even like going back to a year, you were super ruthless on like letting people book meetings with you or not letting people book meetings with you. And you would just automatically say, like, hey, no, sorry, this isn't really part of what I'm trying to do here. It doesn't align with my goals. You had a different way of saying it, but I remember that period of time where you're just fucking ruthless.
I got soft. I don't know why. I got too nice to people.
It's probably from me. I probably rubbed off on you.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go back to being a dick, which is fine. I come by it honestly, so it's all good.
The last thing I would say with that too is I've been toying with the idea of possibly dropping inbox 0, which I know you would probably like that. I'm just trying to figure out a way to organize it in my head as to how I'm going to manage my inbox now, because the inbox 0 might be pointless because of the search function in Gmail is so good now that I think it might add more time than really needed. So I just got to figure out a way to really organize it in my head and how to structure it properly to make sure emails don't really fall through the cracks in the inbox.
Yeah, perfect. I dropped it a long time ago, so it's just you and Diana doing it right now, so
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Or we just hire someone to manage it for me.
No, no, not
You're
happening.
not paying for that.
No, no chance.
Yeah.
All right, what's your number one that's not my number one?
You're my number one, man.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
More client referrals. So I did an audit on my business last week, and I was just looking at the different percentage of where my files came from. I didn't track any years prior very diligently, but I just know looking at my percentages this year, I wish I came to it before this episode, but my past client referral percentage for closed files is up from the previous year. Again, I don't know my percentage from the year prior, but I just know looking at that number, it's a much higher. So I'll actually look on my phone when we chat about the next point, but it's up over a year. And I want to focus on getting that higher and just really restricting the amount of referral partners I have, just have my core group and look at things like enhancing the client journey, which will also tie into my time allotted per week in terms of how much lead gen I need to do to get more files. Because if I do such a good job in the client journey and I get more clients referring to me, then I like the idea of having my client journey as like a leads machine where I'm getting leads from something I'm already doing.
Hmm. So I actually have it pulled up because you sent me a screenshot, so I'll read it out to you.
Oh, there you go.
Past client, you got 4.7% of your business.
So that's past clients coming back for their own mortgage.
Yeah, and then client referral is 14%, database 4.7, social media 9.3, network 2.3, and realtor and other referral partners 65.1.
Yeah, so obviously super heavy still on the referral partners, but if you add up past clients and past client referrals, it would be 18%. So I'm happy with that to start out with, and my goal is to maybe get that to about 30 to 35% next year.
Okay. Nice. I like that. So there's a lot of alignment here, but my number two is just to double down on prospecting. So prospecting both for mortgage business as well as for brokerage business is going to be my only non-negotiable every day. All the other stuff, I'm just going to like kind of do it as it comes, kind of rely more on our team for committed files and stuff like that. Just kind of put more onus on people to handle roles and responsibilities there and just go all in on the prospecting side of things.
Have you figured out what your non-negotiables are going to be for the mortgage business specifically?
In terms of like where the business is going to come from,
More so like if you're gonna have your non-negotiable as strictly lead gen, what are the
mhm.
activities you might not have it built out yet, but if you
Yeah,
do.
not granular. Like, probably do that more in like our review session for when we make the goals and we work backwards. I'll probably get really granular there, but like, just gonna do what worked for me. I'm gonna do a lot of phone calls. I'm not gonna do a lot of social. That's gonna tie into one of my other points. I'm gonna go deep on email. I was already mulling over email, and then you sent me that Hormozy video today, and
Oh,
then I was like,
buddy, how
shit.
good.
Now I just like went down a rabbit hole. So I'm gonna go deep on email calls and just nurture my existing partners like super well and then double down on those relationships, but then establish a few key geographical ones on an area that we're going to hyper target just from our conversation we've had.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to this year. If we looked at some of our failures, I would say that both of us failed on sticking to our non-negotiables from a lead gen perspective. Like I know I did personally. I think you've mentioned it before. And I think picking that back up and having that system back in place will help us. I'm going to give us a bit of grace because obviously we had to start up Tango and it's this whole other new thing for us. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that's an excuse because your non negotiable lead gen activity can be 30 minutes a day and it could still move the needle.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing too, is like, I think where we fucked up is we sometimes made it too complicated and there was
Yeah.
like too many steps. Like there was like, what are your non-negotiables? And there's like five things. It's like, well, shit, I only did one of them. Today's a failure. Instead, it's just gonna be like, hey, my thing is prospecting. I'm gonna have my prospecting time block. and you can have a toggle goal set, which is a feature I'll show you how to use,
Yeah.
and you just hit your goal every day.
It doesn't have to be like it has to be 5 calls, 5 texts a day. Like, it can be those little things that keep you on track to keep the system rolling. Like, for me, one of them is to do a database cleanup every single Friday where I input all the data from the closed file into my spreadsheet, which will help in the future for database mining, and it literally takes, like, 5 minutes to do. And
Yeah,
another one is, like, as simple as if we start it back up, we might start VIP Club back up. We took a bit like, I think 3 or 4 month hiatus from it. If we started back up, part of my monthly non-negotiable is to reply to all of the entries and to also build out a custom video and call to action for each month and actually be consistent with that.
yeah, I like that. For your data entry, you should put it on a different day.
Why is that?
Because Fridays, it's just like so much stuff comes up where you're like, oh, okay, I can go to a cottage or I can do
Yeah.
this. It's one of those things where it's like data entry. It's not important. I can push it off till Monday. So it's always going to be that thing that gets pushed. Whereas if you put it on a different day, it's like, oh, okay, fuck, it's Wednesday morning. I've kind of got through the chaos of the week. I'll do this little thing I have to do now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've actually been thinking about just not even having a designated day and just like I built out the checklist for my non-negotiables this week and I don't even have a specific day on it anymore. In my head I was thinking Friday, but maybe I just as long as it gets checked off for the week, maybe it is a Monday I get it done. By
Mhm.
the end of the week, it just has to be done.
Yeah, and then I think anything on non-negotiables, if you do like the carrot or the stick, so you either have like a reward incentive or you have a punishment, I think is really good to layer in there. So like I'm building out like different rewards for myself right now, and I'm not drinking until Tango hits $1 billion in funded mortgages,
Ooh,
which is going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm like 2 weeks in. Like you noticed on last Saturday night, I was like working on a presentation. I was sending you shit, and you're like, "What the
yeah.
fuck is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I got nothing else to do."
I love that because sometimes on the weekends, if I'm not doing anything, like 2 kids under 2, I don't really get out that much on the weekend anymore, at night at least. Sometimes I just end up being on my phone or in the office just, like, plugging away on something, and I saw that come through. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's Saturday night. I said
Yeah,
to Bridget, my wife, I was like, "It's, like, 10:30 on a Saturday, and I just got a full Canva presentation sent over to me."
yeah. Livia was like kind of frustrated because we were at the cottage, and she's like, "I want to just have a glass of wine on the beach," and you're like fucking sitting there hammering out a presentation and then this like spreadsheet, and I'm like, "Whatever." We got to hit some goals. We've set big goals for ourselves as like a mortgage business and like as a brokerage as a whole, and like losing a Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, like it's just not like that you're like drunk all the time, but you're just like having drinks, you're
Yeah.
lazy. It kind of bleeds into the rest of the time. And I'm an extremist, so I like setting big goals and then like having intense measures to hit them. So we'll see what happens.
Our family understands. We're in a season of growth mode right now. It's not always going to be like that. We might have a couple occasions on the weekend where we're doing work on a Saturday, Friday night, and it's just because we're not doing anything. And our wives, our significant others are fine with that. You have to be careful for you listening. Like, you don't want that to bleed into like an everyday habit where you're not present for your family. But I think like it is acceptable to have these grinding seasons where you're just putting your head down and plugging away. And I think if you have that conversation with your family, they'll understand.
Yeah, I would say like make time for your kids and stuff when they're awake. But then like if your partner is watching the Martha Stewart documentary or something like
Yeah,
that, like have your laptop open,
exactly.
play it. You're not gonna miss too much.
Yeah, for me, it was One Tree Hill last week. I was like, I don't even want to sit here and watch this. I'm just gonna start working away here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like 100%, like be present for your kids. And that was actually one of the points I was going to put down too. If we did 4, I was going to put no work outside like past 5 p.m. when the kids are awake. And that's just a given.
Yeah, and 100% watch the Martha Stewart documentary because there's a lot of takeaways for building a business as a whole.
Is there though?
She kind of like layers one thing on top of another and builds something really cool. And then I don't want to do a spoiler, but
Right. Well, I'm going to watch it.
yeah, I think it was pretty impressive. I think it was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, for what I watched, it was good. I watched the happy parts. I always skip before the sad part.
What's your next point?
Last one for me is to tune out. So I'm gonna turn off a lot of Instagram, Facebook. Like you would put a parental block on a kid's phone of like you could have an hour of social media. I'm gonna put a parental block on my own phone that goes only an hour of social media for each platform, whatever it is. because I find like sometimes I'll hop on Facebook because I'm looking at something on ILMB or newbie mortgage group or one of those groups of like
Yeah.
looking for an answer, but then I get pulled into someone's messaged me or like random shit. Or like same thing with Instagram. Someone will like mention me in the comment and I go check Instagram. Then all of a sudden I'm watching like five reels and just kind of like pulls me away from my day. So I'm going to tune out in that respect. Also, I find sometimes I'll see like 50 other mortgage brokers things that they're posting. And I'm like, oh, I should do something like that. Or like it just kind of gets in my headspace and I don't end up actually doing my own game. So I'm gonna just tune out of it, play my own strategy, play my game, and then like I don't really care about being a social media influencer or anything like that. So
Would you go as far as deleting the apps?
no, because I don't want to lose like my handles.
Not like deleting your account, but like the actual app off your phone.
No, I don't think I need to be like that hardcore. I'm just more so saying like I'm gonna have a timer on it. So like whether it's half an hour or an hour for Instagram or like half hour for Facebook, it's then gonna like lock me out on my phone. And then you can override that obviously because you're the parent as well, but like it's a pretty good like hard line to draw for yourself. Like yesterday I probably watched like 40 minutes of stupid reels because someone sent me something in the middle of the day and I clicked it and then I was like, oh, this is really funny. It's like
I know, I get the messages all the time. From you and Bridget. Honestly, I've never had an issue with that until this year. I don't know why, but I find for me, it's actually the mortgage Facebook groups. Like, I'll just go to Facebook to check my notifications, and I don't know why I'm doing it. But then I'll see on the homepage, like, it's always a post from like ILMB or Newbie Mortgage Group. And I go on it because then I want to see like the interaction, what people are talking about. And maybe it's this policy change. And then I find myself on there for like 20 minutes at a time. Like, that was such a waste of time. So,
mhm.
that could easily be one of my points too. And I think I'm going to have some sort of system where I'm just keeping an eye on my usage. Maybe it's one of those apps that block me out from the social apps.
Yeah, you don't even need an app. It's rated in the phone.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, yeah. Apple has that, right?
Yeah. So
That's a good point.
oh no, iPhone anyways. I don't know if whatever other people who are on like those other phones. I have no idea. That's another reason for getting the bat phone that I think would be really cool is like I'm gonna get like a fucking flip phone that just
I
calls
was
me.
gonna say that, like a Nokia 3020.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just gonna be for like my buddies, a select few realtors, and like my mistress, and that's it.
Man, I'm just thinking this now. Imagine like selling that as a value add to your realtor partners.
It is gonna be a value add.
Yeah,
It's gonna be like, hey, no one has weekend access anymore except for you. There's probably gonna be five of them that get the number. Like
yeah.
anyone who's really annoying, you're not getting the number.
Man, they'll love that. They'll probably think twice about calling you because when they know you have this second phone for like emergencies, they'll think twice about calling you.
Yeah, you don't want to make it too extreme because you do still want the deal flow, right? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot happens on weekends, so I don't want to turn it off too much. The idea being that, like, okay, if there's an emergency and you're one of my core partners, you'll have the number. But like my other phone might be in a drawer that I check in case something else goes live or in case an agent on our team has an issue. Whatever. Like it's not like meant to be black and white. It's just to create more of that space so you're not constantly carrying around this fucking brick that's connecting you to
Yeah.
everything.
It can go either way, man. You can either love it or hate it. I feel like for me, I would probably hate having two phones to be quite honest, but it could go the other way around where you have this mental clarity knowing that like this phone is for more like emergency or more important matters than this other one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's your last one, Tommy?
My third is remove the clutter. So a bit of a theme here, but this one's more specific to like had a past episode on this. Well, I think it was last episode about trying to take on too much at once. But remove the clutter for me is also from a personal life perspective. So an example would be early on, maybe like 4 years ago, I wanted to have a good portfolio of rental properties. So I've got four properties. And at this point, it's become more of a headache for me to manage them. Some of them are fine, but some require a bit more hand holding. Two of them are cash flow negative, the other are neutral or positive. So it evens out, but it's this mental bandwidth that I just want to get rid of just to focus on Tango and the mortgage business and have that as my only focus. And so I think going forward, I'm probably going to start selling some off next year, possibly. So it's just something that I'm thinking about. That would be one example that I'm trying to just like remove the clutter, just have one or two things to focus on in my life.
Yeah, I like that. I think we noticed that it pays dividends to just get rid of all the distractions and the shiny objects and just the other things that like you're like, okay, this is kind of making me money versus you can just like passively have your portfolio cranking out like 6 to 7% return.
Yeah.
It's easy. Nothing really happens to it. You get a little bonus when there's an election or something like that. But yeah, I think it's so much easier. I've got the cottage and then my rental property, and same thing with the rental property. Like I would probably sell it. It cash flows, but like I would sell it if I would make like 50 grand kind of thing on it just to have it off my brain.
Yeah, I look at the business as the cash flow generator now. I used to think like the investments are what's going to contribute to my financial independence goal, which it absolutely can. And real estate, I still think is like one of the best investments you can make. Other end of the spectrum, I know if I put those hours and focus into my businesses, it's going to yield a far higher result. And then I just put that cash into more of like a passive investment, like you said, like 6, 7%. Maybe even go as far as just having it with a financial advisor and let them run with it. Although, like,
Mhm.
I would like to self direct, that could be something I do in the future just to be super passive.
Yeah, it's passive and it's less risk, at least in Canadian
Yeah.
purchasing. The US one, then lower risk, obviously. But yeah, cool. For those of you listening, let us know what you're adding, getting rid of going into 2025. I love doing some of this stuff now because I like to do early implementation, and then like it's a good opportunity for when it actually is 2025. You might say, okay, I'm going to tweak this a little bit and modify it. And it's nice to have that fresh start. So doing an iteration in like November, December kind of time gives you a bit to test and see if some of these things are working before
Yeah.
committing for 25.
This is kinda like the soft phase, the soft release of, like, planning for the next year, and I think, like, you can probably agree with this. Our fucking January, February last year was horrible, so we
Yeah,
wanna fill the pipe now and get these habits ingrained in us to have a better momentum to come out of the gates flying for next year. December, maybe late November will be more of a time for us to have, like, more of a hardcore business planning sit down and get that going.
100%. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't left us a review before, please do. It helps us with just knowing what's working for us and potentially attracting sponsors down the road so that Tom can get more gym equipment and I can pay for a new TV. Cheers.